Last weekend in Canada, the reigning world champion Nelson Piquet, who's been plagued by engine problems for the whole season, scored his first points with a dominant victory over the all-conquering McLaren team. Today he's in pole position, and if his car will go the distance, he's in line for another 9 points. And that really would make the championship come to life. At the moment, Alain Prost has a massive lead with 32.5 points from a third, a second and 3 wins. The last of which was a controversial one in the shortened wet race at Monaco. Second, the other McLaren driver, Niki Lauda, in superb form this year. 24 points from a second and 2 wins, South Africa and the French Grand Prix at Dijon. Then it's Ferrari's René Arnoux. 5 points finishes in the 7 Grand Prix for 16.5 points. Fourth, Elio De Angelis in his JPS Lotus after 6 finishes in the top 6. Derek Warwick's 5th after starting the season superbly but failing to finish in the last 3 races. And 6th, 1982 world champion Keke Rosberg in spite of a car that just won't handle. McLaren, leading the Constructors' Championship, are beginning to look impregnable, with over twice as many points as second-place Ferrari, who are ahead of the very reliable and consistent JPS Lotus team and the frankly disappointingly unsuccessful Renaults. But on today's appallingly bumpy street circuit in sweltering heat, anything could happen. Championship leader Prost is second on the grid, with Nigel Mansell maintaining his excellent 1984 form third, Alboreto fourth, De Angelis fifth and Derek Warwick sixth. Ayrton Senna's an excellent 7th ahead of Cheever, Tournbay and Lauda, and Martin Brundle's done superbly to take the 11th starting place. So all set, watch the lights. It's green and go, and Nigel Mansell comes through from the centre and he makes contact. He's taken off Piquet and Alboreto's hit, and De Angelis goes up into second place, Nigel Mansell third, and looking back down the grid, there's Piquet's car with the right rear wheel missing and Marc Surer stationary alongside him. Now this is going to cause very real organisational problems as the pace car goes by. And there's Piquet still in the cockpit, and Alboreto has gone off the circuit on the second corner. The Scarlet Ferrari of Michele Alboreto reversing back, and his radiator is holed. Look at the steam coming from the left side of the car. The pace car comes through, so that's 3 cars off already before half a lap has been completed.
Yes, they put the red flag out, Murray. They've got no cranes here at the circuit to pull the cars off, and being a street circuit, with barriers all the way around, there is nothing that they can do, and here we're going to see the start again. Now you see Mansell makes the best start, but he was headed for a gap that really wasn't big enough, and it was difficult for Mansell. You've got to go. Probably when he started, he'd lined his car up for that gap for the best start, but he made contact with Piquet, got the back end. We see it again. The back end of Piquet's car starts swirling, and then he just spins into the wall and boom. Wheels coming off all over the place, and they stop the race.
Nigel Mansell, not the start of the race that anybody wanted. Could you tell us exactly what happened?
Well, the red lights turned to green. I got away and I got an initial jump on Nelson and Alain. There's a gap in the middle. I went for the gap in the middle, accelerated in first and was virtually alongside them. And then all of a sudden both cars just started to come in. I had nowhere to go. And Alan came across first, which pushed me into Nelson. I just moved. Then Nelson started to come across and I tried to move away from him. I got nowhere to go.
Yes, and quite right what Nigel says. It's one of those things that things start closing up, there's nothing you can do. And now we look at Alboreto again. But in fact, his car was spinning there, I think, probably because of damage caused at that start line incident. He got a big bang from Piquet's right rear wheel in amidships, and now we're going back to the restart.
Yes, the restart, 36 minutes later, 63 laps, Piquet takes the lead, and Nigel Mansell tries for second at the first corner, Prost holds it though. Alboreto is in 4th place, but the race is on and they're all away safely, and that's a blessing after that awful crash at the beginning. Fortunately, nobody hurt. Piquet, Prost, Mansell in 3rd position, Alboreto is in 4th place, then it's Eddie Cheever 5th, De Angelis in 6th position, and Patrick Tambay in the 2nd Renault in 7th place, and that's good news. Patrick Tambay started the race okay, in spite of the fact that he wasn't able to go in Canada last weekend. And look at the lead that Piquet is building up already, and Nigel Mansell holding on well indeed, closing up to Alain Prost in 2nd place, and it's still the Ferrari of Alboreto, and Eddie Cheever is going superbly in that 5th position. Cheever, Warwick, De Angelis, Lauda, and the rest of them streaming through. Now, Nelson Piquet has got a clear track in front of him. He can pace the race. It would seem after practice, when he took a very dominant pole position, that the Brabham BMW engine problem has been overcome. Engineer Paul Rocher has been working very hard on the quality control problems they had, and seems to have solved them. So coming up to the end of lap 1, and that is Manfred Winkelhock, the first of, I suspect, many drivers who are going to go out of this race, because this Detroit circuit is very, very tough on cars, and if you put a wheel as much as an inch out of line, you could be into a barrier.
Yes, that's a big problem for the drivers here, Murray, because it's not just tough on cars, it's tough on drivers. And we already see Jonathan Palmer in trouble, and as you write, it's completely unforgiving. You put a wheel a yard off line, right, and you bang it on the barrier, and that's the end of your race.
The end of Jonathan Palmer's race in what's turning out to be an utterly miserable Grand Prix season for him. And it's Piquet, Prost, and these two seem to be pulling away a little, or is it an illusion, from Nigel Mansell in 3rd position as they come through the chicane on the Detroit River waterfront, past the hotels and the auditoria and all the other big public buildings, and there is Nigel Mansell in 3rd position. Piquet. And René Arnoux in trouble. He slowed right down, and it looks as though the Ferrari is going to be out of the race this early in the event. Well, that's Palmer out and Arnoux out, but Piquet going strong. There's little doubt that Piquet is the best of today's drivers. There's little doubt that the Brabham chassis is absolutely superb. The only weak link in the chain so far has been the BMW engine, and if they really have overcome their problems, they are going to be all right. And that is Ghinzani in the blue car and Francois Hainaut in the stationary one. Ghinzani gets going again, but it looks to me, yes, Hainaut is getting out of the car. His race 2 is run. And here we are then in the very early stages, indeed lap 5, and there are 4 people out.
Yes, remember the last 2 years that both races have been won by Ford engine cars, Cosworth engine cars against the turbos, and this circuit is so slow and so tight and twisted, the nimble cars have a big advantage here. So watch out for the Tyrrells.
And Piquet is through. He's extending his lead. It is up to 3.6 seconds now. This street fighter, Nelson Piquet, he's magnificent on any circuit, but this really is his forte. And my goodness, look how Nigel Mansell in 3rd position, the man who led in Monaco, has closed right up now on the 2nd place man, Alain Prost, the World Championship leader, who has won 3 Grand Prix this year. But if Nigel Mansell can catch up to the McLaren of Alain Prost, he's going to have a great deal of difficulty in getting past the Frenchman, because passing opportunities here at Detroit are very, very limited. You've got to take your courage in both hands and go for it. Nelson Piquet then completes another lap. Out of the Atwater tunnel he comes, past the pits complex very shortly, as he goes now through turn 16 and 17 into 18 and 19. Piquet, Prost and Mansell. You just saw them in the background, and Mansell is getting closer and closer to Alain Prost, and Nelson Piquet is making that his opportunity to pull away from this battle for second. Masterful driving by Nelson Piquet, because you look down the track and Nigel Mansell is looming larger and larger in those twin mirrors of Alain Prost McLaren. And behind Nigel Mansell is Derek Warwick in 4th position, Alboreto 5th, Cheever 6th. Mansell leaving Prost under no illusion that he's there, pressing him all the time, first to the left, then to the right, and now he's going to try and go for it. And he's through. Nigel Mansell moves up to 2nd position. So it's Piquet leading now. Mansell in 2nd position, Alain Prost in 3rd place.
Yes, and here we see Mansell. He's been pressing Prost for a couple of laps now. He's got the inside line, and he's a little bit later on the brakes and just slips through on the inside. Just a good, sensible passing manoeuvre. Alain Prost didn't fight it very hard because he realised that Mansell's caught him up quite quickly.
Riccardo Patrese, look at that, flat right rear, and it looks to me as though his left front is a problem area too. And while this has been going on, Derek Warwick has been into the pits, he has changed tyres, and of course he has lost places. And now there's the position on lap 17. Piquet, Mansell, Cheever in 3rd position. Down to 4th goes Alboreto. De Angelis is 5th, and Alain Prost in 6th position. And Nigel Mansell now is getting within sight, indeed, very close indeed to Nelson Piquet. Slowing right down there, Nigel Mansell, as out of the Atwater tunnel goes Piquet. And is it an illusion, or has Nigel Mansell lost ground? And that's Patrick Tambay spinning. Patrick Tambay, who was in 8th position, has spun the Renault, and Ayrton Senna has gone into the barrier. There's the Brazilian who finished 2nd in Monaco, and it looks as though he's hurt his right leg, as Tambay and Warwick hurt their legs in Monaco. Tambay, as you have seen, is driving well today until he spun, and Senna limping away, and a lot of cars out of this race, and there's going to be a lot more before it finishes, I'll be bound. Piquet leads then, Mansell 2nd and Cheever 3rd.
Yes, the problem of the unforgiving circuit, because we're getting... And that's Eddie Cheever, he is also out. But most of the problems seem to be driver problems, because this circuit takes no prisoners, forgives no mistakes.
What rotten luck for poor Eddie Cheever. That means that Alboreto goes up into 3rd position. De Angelis is now 4th. Thierry Boutsen in the Arrows BMW 5th. And Keke Rosberg, driving the evil handling Williams, which he doesn't like, is up into 6th position. And Piquet leads. There is the master at work. World champion of 1981 and 1983. Detroit was his 12th pole position, a quite incredible achievement. And he has already won 11 Grand Prix. Everything looks good for Piquet. The car's handling beautifully. The engine is working well. Piquet always does. Although he said before this race began that he was very worried about his burnt foot, which was overheated by the front-mounted new oil radiator in Canada, and he was worried about whether or not he could go the distance. Now there is Nigel Mansell in 2nd place, with Alboreto behind him in the Scarlet Ferrari 3rd, and Elio De Angelis in 4th position. So the two JPS Lotus Renaults are in 2nd and 4th positions, and upholding their reputation for reliability and consistency that they've got this season. Nigel Mansell is being caught by Alboreto.
Yes, I have a sneaking suspicion that Mansell's got some sort of gear selector problem, because if you remember when we saw him when he finally got right up behind Piquet, he suddenly slowed down, and I thought that was possibly gear problems. But there's no doubt the Lotus chassis handles very well indeed, and it's one of the best chassis around this year.
And there's the proof. The two JPS Lotus cars in second and fourth positions, and Nigel Mansell showing us that the promise of Monaco and the fact that he's getting better race by race is being more than maintained here at Detroit. And Elio De Angelis, who's finished in the top 6 in 6 of the 7 races this year, is in the top 6 in this Detroit Grand Prix, making a sandwich with Nigel Mansell out of Michele Alboretto's Ferrari. Piquet leads then. And you can see that there is absolutely no room for even the slightest mistake here at Detroit as Piquet comes through, making the most of the circuit. Mansell, Alboretto, De Angelis, second, third, fourth. And these drivers have got, what, some 620 horsepower under their right foot in these very lightweight cars. The tyres are, as usual, critical into today's conditions. And now, Keke Rosberg is being caught by no less a driver than Martin Brundle and then Stefan Bellof. And Keke Rosberg is now into 4th position. Martin Brundle is 5th. Stefan Bellof is 6th. And Brundle and Bellof are in the 2 Ford DFV powered Tyrrell cars, the 3-litre cars, which are superbly nimble, and they've got 2 of the finest young drivers in the world at the wheel here. Brundle then in 5th position, Bellof in 6th place, closing up on Keke Rosberg, who is 4th, and I don't think from the look of things that Rosberg is too happy with the car. This is the same sort of circuit as Monaco. It's a street circuit, and Keke was extremely unhappy with the handling of his Williams Honda at Monaco. And now Mansell into the pits, was in 2nd place. Nigel Mansell then, what has happened? And he's out of the cockpit and out of the race. Poor Nigel Mansell, out in the lead at Monaco, out in 2nd place here. That means Alboretto goes to 2nd, De Angelis to 3rd, Keke Rosberg back to 4th, and Martin Brundle and Stefan Bellof are there too.
Yes, what a great disappointment for Nigel Mansell. He was at one stage the quickest car-driver combination on the circuit, and whilst the Lotus, the JPS has been going very well this year, they really haven't been very lucky. So that's another sad day for Nigel Mansell, but he's a persevering driver and his turn will come, and that is for sure.
And now the 2 Tyrrells are still hard at it after Keke Rosberg. Martin Brundle, who, like Patrick Tambay and Nelson Piquet, is one of the sitting wounded, as it were, in this race, because Martin Brundle, like Piquet, expressed doubts about his ability to go the race distance just before the race began, because he has torn neck muscles after his awful crash in practice at Monaco. He still hasn't recovered from that. He did 40 laps in practice yesterday and was very worried about whether he could do 63 laps in the race today, because don't forget, your crash helmet is a considerable weight. The forces going to the left and right pull your head over, and you need all the strength you've normally got in your neck muscles, and Martin has got a considerable deficiency in his neck muscles here today. But that doesn't seem to be deterring him one little bit. Here he is, watch him go.
Yes, that's the good thing. When you're making progress through the field with lots of cars to race, no matter how much it hurts, you do tend to forget. If he was driving on his own and having a boring race in one position, then his neck muscles would really be a problem for him. But he's far too busy right now to have a real problem.
What a pluperfect race Nelson Piquet is driving. And now, behind Nelson Piquet, unseen by you, Martin Brundle has been into the pits, and Stefan Beloff is up into 5th position as Piquet blasts through. Now, can Brundle set about closing the gap as Piquet goes through almost at the end of another lap? He comes down to the chicane, left, right, just misses that concrete wall on the left by about, and I'm not joking, 1/10 of an inch. It's that close. The rubber almost kisses the concrete as he goes by. Round the long left-hander at turns 1 and 2, down Atwater Street, into the right-hander at Stanton, and there he is. Now round into Woodbridge Street and this second gear right-hander, away up towards the Congress buildings. And the Brabham handling magnificently, and Theo Fabi, who is Nelson Piquet's teammate, that's Corrado's elder brother, they're sharing the second, and that is Stefan Beloff. Stefan Beloff, who was in 5th position, has obviously wiped the left rear wheel off. He stopped right opposite the pits, and that must have been a very considerable clout.
Yes, and here we see it again. And you see he's stood a little bit wide coming through the chicane, gets the front wheel past, and boom. And just as we were saying earlier, very unforgiving, very terminal. A few inches offline, and it's terminal here. And there's Stefan Beloff just going away to lick his wounds.
To report in to Brian Lyles, his team engineer, who must have seen what happened because the car is now directly opposite the pits. And it's Piquet, Alboreto, De Angelis, Rosberg, Warwick and Prost back into the running in 6th position. Don't forget that Brundle has been into the pits, and now Theo Fabi will have benefited from Stefan Beloff's retirement and moved up a place. And still Piquet with a perfect rhythm. He's into a race-winning format. And that is Philippe Alliot's Ram Hart. The Frenchman in the Ram team really seems to have done a thorough demolition job on the Ram.
Yes, I think it'd be fair to say that it was his Ram Hart, because he's really done that a mischief. That he's knocked the left rear corner off completely, stuffed in the left front corner, and that car's a real mess.
And that car is Michele Alboreto's Ferrari in 2nd place, forlornly chasing the Brabham of Nelson Piquet. But as I say forlornly, I correct myself, because Alboreto is charging. He is starting to close the gap between himself and Nelson Piquet there. Now, I don't know whether this is because Piquet is pacing himself, or whether Michele Alboreto, who has only finished in 1 Grand Prix so far this year, that was Belgium which he won, is really pressing. But anyway, there's Derek Warwick in 5th position now, with Martin Brundle back in the points in 6th position, ahead of Alain Prost. So it's Piquet leading, Alboreto 2nd, De Angelis 3rd, Keke Rosberg 4th, and this is the battle for 5th, 6th and 7th, Warwick, Brundle and Prost. And Prost has spun! He's spun, and it's incredible. Prost, very, very lucky. He hasn't touched either of those unforgiving concrete walls, and he was in 7th place when he spun, and he's in 7th place when he recovers. But Theo Fabi in the Brabham, driving well, is closing up, and there he is, right behind Alain Prost. Now, there's the battle for what is now the 7th position, 7th and 8th. Number 2, Theo Fabi in the 2nd of the 2 Brabham BMWs as Prost exits the tunnel, and Fabi hard after it. Prost, Fabi, down the straight, past the pits, past Stefan Beloff's broken Tyrrell, into the left-hander at turn 1. Alain Prost trying to get back into the points, and Derek Warwick there is in 5th position. And Martin Brundle is, look how close Martin Brundle is to, well, next time you see them, look how close they are. There are the positions on lap 41. Piquet leads, Alboreto second, De Angelis third, fourth, fifth and sixth, Rosberg, Warwick and Brundle, and a great scrap going on between Derek Warwick, the British driver in the Works Renault, and Martin Brundle in the 3-litre Tyrrell, 6th position. Great stuff. Martin Brundle, who finished 5th in Brazil, his first Grand Prix, in the points in a Grand Prix again. Piquet. Well, it's Nelson Piquet's race. There can be little doubt about that, unless he strikes trouble, because now that the car is in as good shape as it obviously is, Nelson Piquet, twice a world champion, second in the World Championship in 1980, with enormous experience and a tremendous amount of skill, is proving that he's the best in the business, and he's really just got to keep it rolling now at this very considerable speed. Watch his lines, watch his braking points, watch his pit signals, and retain his first position. Warwick and Brundle, 5th and 6th. And Martin Brundle is starting to turn out to be the man of the race. He started from 11th position and he goes straight past Warwick into 5th position. And Warwick has slowed right down. Something wrong with the Renault, question mark? Yeah, it must be. Look, and he's turning off the circuit.
Yes, I've no idea what went wrong with the Renault then, but that was quite terminal, obviously. And so Derek Warwick, sadly, after his great start to the season, has been quite unlucky mechanically for the last 2 or 3 races. He had that accident at Monte Carlo, and he's had a few retirements, and it would be really nice to see him consolidate some more championship points.
And now, after the Brabhams have failed to finish both their cars in any race this year, they are both in the top 6 here at Detroit, because Piquet is leading and Teo Fabi has moved up into 6th position into the World Championship points with the retirement of Derek Warwick. And it's Piquet, Alboreto, Elio De Angelis, Keke Rosberg, Martin Brundle and Teo Fabi in the top 6 places. And this is going to help Brabham in their quest for the Constructors' Championship, because you get points in the Constructors' Championship for each of your cars that finishes in the top 6, and they are both there. Prost into the pits. Alain Prost, lap 44 in 8th position. Why? Well, the jacks are under. That front wheel came off very quickly and very easily. But Alain Prost isn't going to lose many places, because there are only 10 cars left in the race now. So many have been the retirements, but still Nelson Piquet, I was going to say drones on, that is certainly not the right way to describe it, but he's driving a wonderfully smooth and consistent race, and as you can see, he has lapped Jacques Lafitte, who is now in 7th position, and that is Martin Brundle, number 3, in only his 8th Grand Prix, no, his 7th Grand Prix, because he failed to qualify at Monaco. He scored in Brazil, and Stefan Beloff has scored in 3 of the championship races this year, so the Tyrrell record is an absolutely superb one. And Martin Brundle is now catching that man, the 4th place man, Keke Rosberg. Martin Brundle, in the nimble, powerful enough at this street circuit Tyrrell, is catching the 4th place car of Keke Rosberg, and there is Brundle.
Yes, he's having a magnificent race. He's really starting to charge now. But you've got to admire the way Piquet has driven this race. He's really looked like the maestro. He's been, if anything, the dominant driver in Grand Prix racing for the last 3 years. And today he really confirmed this is a very difficult circuit.
And there is Keke Rosberg. Rosberg has stopped, and that means that Brundle is up into 4th position. I don't know what the problem with Rosberg's Williams is. I can see it smoking at the back. I will hazard a guess that it's a turbo problem, and I'll hazard a guess that it's going to catch fire if they don't do something off sharply because those turbos get very hot, they get oil building when they're stationary, and the Detroit Fire people, who haven't got the best of reputations after practice when Senna had to put his own car out when it caught fire, are certainly onto the mark very smartly with Rosberg's, who walks away in disgust. Lap 48 then. Piquet, Alboreto, De Angelis. Brundle now up into 4th position. Teo Fabi to 5th, and Alain Prost is in 6th position. What a race of changes as first one and then another car goes out, but the ones that are running fast and reliably. Piquet. And of course the problem at this stage of the race for Nelson and that is Michele Alboreto. There's another one out. The Ferrari of Michele Alboreto, which was second, is out of the Detroit Grand Prix, joining René Arnoux' car, which retired a long time ago. Alboreto, who now makes it 6 retirements in 7 races. What an awful record. Maybe he should have stayed at Tyrrell after all. Walks away unhappily as Nelson Piquet comes through. His only worry now, as he skirts Alio's broken Ram Hart car, is to keep going. And as you see, Martin Brundle, with 12 laps to go, is up into an incredible 3rd position, with Fabi 4th. Prost is up into 5th position, which will give him 2 World Championship points if he stays there. And Jacques Lafitte is back in the points, the first time for a long time. Jacques Lafitte, of course, has been lapped by Nelson Piquet, but in today's conditions that's nothing to be ashamed of. And my goodness, Martin Brundle has now caught right up to the 2nd place man, Elio De Angelis. It looks like there is no stopping this incredible young 25-year-old Englishman from King's Lynn. Martin Brundle comes right up to the rear wing of Elio De Angelis' JPS Lotus. But as I've said before, and there's a bit of paper stuck on the left side pod of De Angelis' car, I notice. As I've said before, catching is one thing at Detroit, getting past is another. And Brundle must keep cool. Into the tunnel, right behind Elio De Angelis, challenging for 2nd place. And he's going to go through. He's done it. Martin Brundle takes De Angelis at the chicane at the end of the lap and moves up to a magnificent 2nd place.
Yes, he got the drop on the acceleration there. It was a marvellous piece of driving by Martin Brundle. He's in top form. He out-accelerated De Angelis from the previous corner and was able to drive right round the outside of him in a car that has less power. So that was a marvellous piece of overtaking, and what a great moment for Martin Brundle, going into 2nd place, his best position ever in a Grand Prix.
As we look at Alain Prost with Nelson Piquet practically a full lap ahead of him, he is on his last lap, Piquet, and look at Martin Brundle. That's Liz, his wife, listening to the earphones, and well she might, because now Martin Brundle is catching Nelson Piquet in the closing stages of the last lap. And it really is not inconceivable that if he can get up to Piquet, he might get past him.
Yes, because Piquet's got a problem. Having slowed down earlier on, he's now got Prost in front of him, and Prost doesn't care. And if he's held up by Prost, Brundle might be able to catch him.
Well, we'll soon know. The race has really come alight in the last few yards. They're coming out of the right-hander there. There is Prost, still ahead of Piquet, and all the time, Martin Brundle on this, the last lap, is catching as Piquet closes right up to Alain Prost. Alain Prost isn't going to move over and let Piquet through. Why should he? And look how close it is. Brundle lets the back step out as he goes round the left-hander there, into the right. Piquet is right up behind Prost. They're going to go into the tunnel any moment, and then it's only a matter of yards to the finish. It's Prost. Almost lapped. Piquet, the leader. Brundle, it's as close as that, just over a second. And Brundle is gaining all the time. Now they're right up to the chicane, and these are the last stages of the race. Prost goes through. Piquet leads across. Brundle is a second behind him. and just fails to hit the wall that fell off. The checkered flag goes out. Nelson Piquet has won magnificently, and Liz Brundle may well look happy. She's got every reason to do so, because the two men of the race are undoubtedly this man, the brilliant winner for the second Grand Prix in succession, Nelson Piquet, and Martin Brundle, who's given him a magnificent race at the end of the Detroit Grand Prix. A very relaxed looking Nelson Piquet. So, victory for Nelson Piquet, 9 points. Then Brundle, De Angelis, Fabi, Prost and Jacques Lafitte in the next places up to 6th. And as far as the World Championship is concerned, that means to say that Alain Prost has maintained his lead ahead of Lauda, De Angelis 3rd, Piquet 4th, René Arnoux 5th and Derek Warwick in 6th position. Now the Constructors' Championship sees the McLaren team still a long way ahead of Ferrari, with Lotus 3rd, Brabham up to 4th and Renault in 5th position. There's the man of the race, Nelson Piquet, a magnificent Detroit Grand Prix, and in 2 weeks' time, still in America, the Dallas Grand Prix. Do join us.